Hello everyone. Now that we have our custom cursor made and dragging around the screen, we're going to go and make a monster. But before we do that, because we know that sometimes things crash, computers crash, work gets lost, rather than continue to work with this game file, I'm going to resave it. So I'm going to do File, Save As. In the same place, I'm just going to put a 2 on the end of this because it's my second version of it, let's say. And what that does, it closes out the original and gives me the same exact thing but with a number 2 on it. And so when I add this code, if my computer crashes, something bad happens, I can always go back to my previous state. Um, and then in this way, if I save it every step along the way, if anything bad happens at step 9 or 10 or whatever, I can always go back to 7 or 8 or what have you and have most of my game still there, and I will not have lost everything in one shot. Okay, so let's make sure we save as we go. So right now I'm saving as whatever name I had with a 2 on the end. And what I want to do here is I want to add a symbol that I'm going to use as a monster. But I don't want to add it on my background layer or my actions layer, so I'm going to make a new layer. And the reason why I'm clicking on the background layer is when I click the new layer button, it'll be above that so that I can see it. The other thing I could do is actually turn off the background layer. So with this new layer, which says layer 1, yours may say 2 or 3 or whatever, it's just a default name, don't worry about it. I'm going to draw something on that layer. So I'm going to come over here to some tool that you can use to draw something, the Polystar tool. It may be set on the rectangle for you, but again, the little triangle means it's a slot. Just click and hold down, you get more things you can draw. I'm going to choose Polystar, and I'm going to go to properties of that, and I don't want any stroke. I've done this before, so it's already there. So I'm going to choose no stroke. And because I think I can see red pretty well on this, I'm going to choose red as my color. You can choose whatever you like. And the options of that, instead of a polygon, I'm going to draw a star. And instead of 8 sides, I think it comes up a default of 5. I'm going to make it odd. So I'm going to make it 7 and say OK. So now I'm going to draw this star. That's going to be my monster. A nice red star comes out at the screen. You're going to shoot on it or click on it to shoot it. But before we get going any further on that, I'm going to click on it once and go up here to modify, convert the symbol, and I'm going to call it monster with a capital M. And we're probably going to use it later and going to have to export it for ActionScript, but right now I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it like that. So in my library now, I have this monster movie clip symbol, and I want to do a little animation so that it's like moving out at you, and as it comes at you and it looks like it's going to hurt you, you click on it to destroy it. So I'm going to make a 30 frame animation. So I'm going to click out here on frame 30 of this layer, press F6. Notice how the background went away, but that's only because the background doesn't exist here. And this layer is going to go away when we're done because we're just going to get the code, the ActionScript code to make this monster do the animation we make. If we want so that you don't see this image popping around and driving you crazy, we'll just turn it off to begin with. Okay, so here's our star. It doesn't do anything right now, but I'm going to use my free transform tool and click on it, and I'm going to make it, if I can get the right pointer, there we go, the double arrow. I'm going to shrink it down. So on frame 1 it's very small, and on frame 30 you notice it jumps back out to its original size. But we don't want it to just jump out. We want it to gradually change shape, and the way we do that is with a tween, meaning let Flash determine all the shapes it'll be at every frame in between frames 1 and frames 30. Okay, so rather than you resizing it 28 times from this one to this one, the program, the computer, is going to do it for you. And the way you do that is you right click anywhere in the center and you say create classic tween. And so now every frame is a different size as it slowly grows from this to this. But we could also do something else if we wanted to spin, and just making sure that this red playhead, and when you move it they call scrubbing the playhead, make sure you scrub it all the way to frame 30 before you make any changes. So here with our free transform tool, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to drag it around so it also spins. So now from frame 1 to frame 30 it's going to fly out at you as it spins. Okay, but at frame 1 it's like sort of already there, so I guess we could even make it a little smaller. Again, be either at frame 1 for the beginning or frame 30 for the end. If you do stuff on a different frame, then it'll have like intermediate points at which it's going to try and blend things together. Not wrong, but probably not what you want. So I'm going to just make this a little smaller so it's really tiny. And then if I really want to make it so that you can't see anything on it, if I go to properties and I go to color effect of this particular symbol, if I go down to alpha, and you can see it was at 0 because I've been playing around with this, but if I make it 0, then it's totally invisible. So now what it does is it goes like that. So it starts off, you can't even see it. Here it comes, here it comes, there it comes. Better shoot it or you get hurt. Okay, so once we have that animation the way we want it, we right click here and we say copy motion as ActionScript 3.0. It's going to ask us for a name. Very common thing is to just say this, because this is the thing we're dealing with. And then you say OK. Now that we have that copied as code, we don't need this layer anymore, so we can delete that. And then we're going to go into our monster movie clip symbol and paste the code in there. So you have to make sure you go back to the library, look for the monster movie clip. This is our symbol. Double click on its icon next to it. If you double click on the word, it wants to change the name of it. So double click on the icon and it opens this, and we want to have an actions layer. So we'll make a new layer, call it actions. And then on the first frame of the actions layer, you press F9. I'll go the long way. And then all you have to do is right click. Oops. Oh yeah, here it is. Paste. And now all that code is the code that makes the animation play. But to get it from ActionScript and make it do what we want, we just need to add a few things. It's adding the animator class, but we're going to write some code to determine when things happen with the motion. So we have to import something up here. So we're going to import fl.motion event, because we're going to send some motion events, so we have to have that imported in there. All this code over here tells it all about the animation that's being played. So that's all good because we copied it. So we're going to go down here. Notice it's set up a variable called this animator. It's of the animator class. It's a new animator, all that type of stuff that we're kind of familiar with as far as the new thing and declaring a variable and setting the type of variable it is. Okay, and then it's saying play. But we want to do something else. Oops, in the wrong button there, sorry. And what we want to do is we want to listen to when the motion event ends, because when it ends, we want this star to disappear. But before I do that, I better go back up here and fix my spelling mistake. I missed an O, so it's motion event. Hopefully you guys didn't miss that. So right now, if I was to play this and see what happens before I add the rest of the code that we really need. Going back to scene 1, what I did was I created a new layer above the background layer, and well, let me show you what I did. Okay, create a new layer above the background layer. Drag the monster movie clip on the screen. If you play your game now, and this is again just a scrap layer, we're going to get rid of it, but just so that you can see what's happening. Okay, the star moves out, but it never goes away. Okay, so we don't want that. And here's our cursor moving around. I guess a red star with a red cursor is not the best idea. So let's delete this layer and go back to the monster movie clip and go to the actions layer of that. Open up the actions. So what we want to add here is we're going to say this underscore animator. That's the variable that Flash set up for us when we exported it for ActionScript or copied it for ActionScript. Okay, so this animator, add listener. What type of event? It's a motion event, and it's when the motion ends. So I'm going to take that off the list here. And when it ends, we're going to run the hurt player function. Now we have to define the hurt player function. So function hurt player, using camel case, of course. It's an event, and it's a motion. A motion event. And we use the word void at the end. And then we open close our oops, why didn't that go? There we go. And then we open close our semicolons. And all we're going to do is remove the star from the stage. So what we're saying is this, okay, so this thing we're working with, go to its parent, so dot parent. And when we get to the parent, which would be the stage, remove child. And what is it we want to remove? We want to remove this, meaning the red star. So it almost seems like a circle there. It's kind of silly. It's this, parent, remove child, this. But that's the way you do it. You're saying, taking this thing we're talking about, what's its parent? The stage. What do we want to remove? We want to remove a child. And what child do we want to remove? Well, we want to remove this child. But that's how you get rid of it. So let's go and see if I got it right. Go back to scene 1. And we need a scrap layer to show that on. Oops, shouldn't have did that. Wrong button. A scrap layer here. We drag the star on the screen. And if we click play, you'll see that it comes out and then it disappears. It doesn't just stay there. So if you followed this along correctly, you should have a game where the star comes right out at you and disappears. At this point, or in the next part of the game, let's say in the next part of the game. So right now, let's just do file, save, leaving that scrap layer there. So basically, you can see that it moves the way you want. In the next game, we'll get to the next part where we're not going to actually have that scrap layer. But for now, just leave it there. Thank you.